Welcome back, everyone. In this fresh section of ours, we are going to start with loops. Now, before jumping to how to execute loops, let's learn about why loops are necessary. In general, statements are executed sequentially. We have already seen that Python is an interpreter type, so each and every line of code will be executed sequentially, one after the other. The first statement in a function is executed first, followed by the second, and so on. There may be a situation where when you need to execute a block of code several number of times. So there might be some condition. Until that condition is fulfilled, you need to execute a particular block of code. Programming languages provide various control structures that allow for some complicated execution paths. A loop statement allows us to execute a statement or group of statement multiple times. The following diagram, which you can see right now in my screen, illustrates a loop statement. So until your condition is true, so let's say you have a number n, you have written out the condition that n should be less than 10, and initially the value of n is 1. Let's write it over here. Initially the value of n is 1. So it will check that over here if the condition is less than, that is the value of n is less than 10 or not. If it is less than 10, then let's say you have written out something of printing, print n, p, and right now I'm just writing out print n. So I just wanted to print n. I want to print all the numbers between 1 to 10. So initially it was 1, I'm checking 1 is less than 10 or not, and then I am just printing out the value of n. Along with, I am increasing the value of n to 1. So each time it goes, it will just increase the value to 1. Then it will go back and check again. N value has increased to 2, so now it will be increased to 2, and then it is checking if the value is again less than 10 or not. So yes, it's the value is again less than 10, 2 is less than 10, it will go again, display 2, and then increase n again with 1. So again n becomes 3. So it will go on until n becomes 10. When it becomes 10s, it checks that 10 is less than 10 or not. No, it isn't, so it will get out of the loop. That is exactly how a loop executes. Now, in loops, we have two primitive loop commands in Python. One is for loop and another is while loop. Let's start with for loop. A for loop is used for iterating over a sequence. Okay. You can just call it as an iterator rather than a loop also. So if you have any data structure, let's say a set, a dictionary, a string, a list, a tuple, you can iterate each and every item inside of them. With the for loop, you can execute a set of statement once for each item in a list, tuple, set, and etc. Now, this is how the syntax of for loop looks like. We have the for keyword, then the variable name or the item name, whichever you want to give, in the object. Over here, the object can be a list, the object can be a tuple, dictionary, any object, or a string, anything. And then inside of it, you might write out the statement. Now back to our initial question, that was, let's have a list L equal to, let's have numbers from 1 to 10. In this list, I have numbers 1 to 10. So I might do for, so it will be for, and I might name the variable for num in, and the object will be L, and then a colon, and then I might write print. Right now I'm just going to write p, print num. So the keyword for is followed by the item name, that is num in L. So from L it will take the first value 1 and then print 1, then it will take the second value, that is 2, then it will take the third value, and then 4, 5, 6 until it goes to 10. It will go through all the values and print out the values inside of it. So that is the use of iterator. Now let's jump into a Jupyter notebook and look more into it. Now we are in a fresh new page of Jupyter notebook. Let's start with writing out the syntax of it. Let's start with the syntax. So let's write for item in object, and then let's write statements. Okay, so that is how the our general syntax of for loop looks like. We have a variable item that is used for iterating it. An object can be anything, a tuple, a list, a dictionary, a string, anything. Now let's look into our first example. Let's take an example of fruits. So I have a list of fruits. Let's say apple. I'm gonna take some more fruits. Let's say banana, and one more. Let's say cherry. So, and now let's print out what we have in the fruits. Okay, so this is how my list looks like. Now I want to iterate through it one by one and display out each value of it. So let's write example 1. Let's write what I want to do: iterate through all the items in the list and display them. Right, now let's start with it. For, let's say right now I want to just name it as fruit in fruits. Okay, now what is happening exactly? For fruit, fruit is the item name. You can name it as you wish, but make sure that whatever variable you are creating, it should be quite readable to the users also. Fruit in fruits. Okay. What is fruits? Fruits is my list. Now colon, and let's print fruit. So you can see that I have all the values that should be displayed. That is apple, banana, cherry. So in fruits, I have apple first, then banana, then cherry. So what exactly is happening is, from fruits, I'm taking the first value apple, assigning it to again fruit, that is the variable, and printing out fruit. Again, I'm going back to my list. I'm seeing the next value, that is banana, and then assigning it to fruit, the variable, and then printing it. Again, taking cherry, assigning it to fruit, and then displaying whatever the value of fruit is. Let's take one more number. The So let's say my numbers. Let's create out some numbers from 1 to 10. The same example what we discussed in our presentation round. So I have my numbers. You can check if it has been successfully written off. So I have 1 2 3 5 4 5 6 7 8 9 10, all the numbers in my list. Now same thing I'm gonna do for item, or you can name it anything. So right now I'm gonna just name it for num in my numbers. Okay, and then I'm gonna print num. So you can see it is displaying all the numbers from num in my numbers. First number is taken, 1 is taken, assigned to num, and then printed num is printed out. Again, from my numbers, 2 is taken, assigned to num, and then 2 is printed out. Now, a quick hack, a lot of things you can do with this. Let's copy out this code, and if you want the square of each number, you can just multiply it by 2. Or let's say you want the multiplication of it by itself. Oops, this I've just powered it up. So you can do all the arithmetic operations whichever you want in from over here itself. Okay. Now let's look into the last iterator. So for char in, I'm gonna write a string. So let's write hello. Okay, as I said that you can iterate through each and everything. Then what I'm going to do is print char. So you can see that I am getting each and every character of hello. I can get each and every character. If you want to do any operations over here, you can see I can multiply it by 2 or multiply it by itself. So there will be a type error because you can't actually multiply it with itself. So these are some of the errors that are occasionally followed. So now in our next session, we are going to go much deeper into for loops, nested loops, and then about we are going to look into else statements in for loop.